The Harvard Business School graduation ceremony was exactly as pretentious as I'd expected. I adjusted my well-worn blazer, the same one I'd worn while signing the final acquisition papers for Sterling Global last week, and found my seat in the back rows, where Caroline had insisted I belong. Mr. Chen, a student usher, squinted at his list. The family seating is... Oh, let me guess. I smiled. My ex-wife requested I sit far from the prominent family section. He blushed, nodding. I caught sight of Caroline in the distance, draped in designer labels, her new husband James Sterling's arm around her waist as they held court among Boston's elite. The same James Sterling whose company now technically belonged to me, though the paperwork wouldn't be public until Monday. "Dad." Michael's voice carried across the courtyard. My son hurried over in his graduation robes, looking every bit the future CEO he'd become. "They put you all the way back here." "It's fine." I straightened his tie, just like I used to straighten his uniform before school. "Your mother's just being herself." "It's ridiculous," he scowled. "You're the one who paid for my education. All those years of food truck profits, catering gigs, late nights. And now you're graduating with honors." I patted his shoulder. "That's all that matters." Honors from his stepfather's endowed business program. Caroline's voice cut through our moment. She sauntered over, James trailing behind her. "Though I suppose we can't expect everyone to appreciate the significance of the Sterling School of Business." I bit back a smile, remembering the board meeting where I quietly acquired the final shares needed for controlling interests. Caroline had been too busy planning her latest charity gala to notice that the Asian man taking notes in the corner was actually a major investor. "Caroline," I nodded. "Congratulations. Our son did well." Despite his humble beginnings. She eyed my blazer with disdain. "Still running that little food truck, David?" "Actually, it's a fleet of trucks now. And 3 restaurants." "How quaint." She turned to James. "Darling, remember when David thought he could compete with your restaurant holdings?" James Sterling shifted uncomfortably. He'd been receiving my lawyer's messages all week, though he hadn't connected them to me yet. "Yes, well, every business starts somewhere." Speaking of business, I checked my watch, a subtle Rolex that cost more than Caroline's monthly shopping allowance. "I hear Sterling Global's been having an interesting quarter." James's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "Oh, just market rumors," I smiled. "Something about unexpected share acquisitions." "Daddy's company is doing perfectly fine," Caroline snapped. "Not that you'd understand corporate finance, selling noodles from a truck." Michael started to defend me, but I caught his eye. "Not yet." "You're right," I said mildly. "I'm just a simple businessman. Though I do read the Financial Times occasionally." "Reading about success isn't the same as achieving it," Caroline sneered. "Just like watching the Food Network didn't make you a real chef." I watched Michael's face darken and touched his arm gently. "It's fine, son. This is your day." "Yes, Michael," Caroline brightened. "Come take photos with the Sterling Group executives. They're all here to see James's Stepson graduate." "You mean Dad's son," Michael corrected. "And I'd like photos with him first." "But darling, the board members will still be here on Monday," I finished quietly. "Though perhaps not in the same positions." James frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing important." I adjusted my cuffs, just thinking out loud about corporate restructuring. Caroline laughed sharply, as if you'd know anything about that. "Come along, Michael. The dean wants photos with the Sterling family." "I am with family," Michael said firmly, standing by me. "My father might not have his name on a building, but he built something from nothing." "What have you built, Mom?" "I built a new life," she snapped. "Away from food trucks and budget suits and small dreams, I built connections with people who matter." "Connections matter less than conviction," I offered. "And dreams are only small if you stop believing in them." A commotion near the stage drew our attention. The dean was gathering dignitaries for the ceremony. James checked his phone, his face paling slightly. "Caroline, darling, I need to make a call. The board is requesting an emergency meeting for Monday." "Monday," she waved dismissively. "Tell them we'll be in Aspen. Michael's graduation party." "Might need rescheduling," I suggested. Board meetings can be so unpredictable, especially when ownership changes hands. James's eyes narrowed. "How do you know about—" "Dad," Michael interrupted, a slow smile spreading across his face. Is there something you haven't told us? I straightened my tie. Several things. But today is about you, son. Caroline looked between us suspiciously. What's going on? James, what aren't you telling me? Nothing, dear. But James was studying me with new intensity. Though perhaps we should stay in town for that board meeting. But the party. I've invited everyone who matters in Boston. Everyone who matters. I echoed. Like the service staff who raised our son while you were climbing social ladders? The line cooks who helped me cater extra events to pay for his prep school. Oh, please. Caroline rolled her eyes. Still bitter about the divorce? While you were playing chef, I was securing Michael's future through James's connections. Mom, Michael's voice was steel. Dad secured my future by working 18-hour days. By teaching me value and dignity. By showing me that true success isn't about names on buildings. Speaking of buildings, I checked my phone. The Sterling Tower lease is up for review soon, isn't it, James? The color drained from James's face. How could you possibly know that? The same way I know about the merger attempts, the offshore accounts, and the questionable stock transfers. I smiled. I may be just a food truck owner, but I pay attention. Carolyn grabbed James's arm. What is he talking about? Nothing, James said quickly. He's trying to upset you. No, I said softly. I'm trying to teach you both something about underestimating people. A lesson you'll understand better after Monday's board meeting. Dad, Michael was grinning now. What did you do? Built an empire, I said simply, one dumpling at a time. While your mother was attending galas, I was attending night classes. While she was collecting designer labels, I was collecting shares. And while they were mocking my small business, you were planning something bigger, Michael finished. The ceremony was about to begin. Caroline stood frozen, her perfect world starting to crack. James was already dialing his lawyers, though it was too late. Impossible? Caroline whispered. You're nothing but a food truck owner? I straightened Michael's graduation robes. You'd be amazed what one can accomplish while being underestimated. Shall we find our seats? Though perhaps with some adjustments to the seating arrangement. The graduation ceremony proceeded with all the pomp Harvard could muster. But the real drama unfolded in whispered conversations and frantic text messages. James kept disappearing to make calls, returning each time looking more ashen. Caroline's perfect makeup couldn't hide her growing anxiety. I sat proudly in my new front row seat, courtesy of Michael's insistence, watching my son prepare to give his valedictorian speech. The same determination that had kept me going through years of pre-dawn prep work and midnight catering gigs shone in his eyes. Fellow graduates, Michael began, we talk a lot about legacy here at Harvard, about inherited success and family names on buildings. But true legacy isn't handed down. It's built up. Caroline shifted uncomfortably beside me as Michael continued. My father taught me that success isn't about starting at the top. It's about starting wherever you are and refusing to stay there. He built his first food truck with borrowed money and a dream that most people mocked. James's phone buzzed again. His face went pale as he read the message. Today, that one food truck has become the fastest-growing restaurant group in New England. But more importantly, it became a lesson in dignity, perseverance, and the power of quiet ambition. I caught Caroline watching me with new eyes, probably calculating exactly how successful my little business had become. She had no idea. After the ceremony, at the reception in the Sterling School of Business atrium, the power dynamics began their subtle shift. Board members who'd previously ignored me were suddenly finding reasons to hover nearby. James looked like he needed antacids. David, he'd approached carefully, perhaps we could speak privately. About the board meeting, I sipped my champagne. Or about how you acquired those agent subsidiaries last year? His face went white. How did you know about the irregular stock transfers? The same way I knew your company was vulnerable to a takeover. I pay attention. Caroline appeared at his elbow. James, darling, what's going on? Why do you keep getting calls from the lawyers? Before he could answer, Dean Roberts joined us. Ah, Mr. Chen, I understand congratulations are in order, both for Michael's outstanding achievement and your recent business acquisition. Business acquisition. Caroline's voice rose slightly. What acquisition? I smiled. Just a small merger. Nothing as prestigious as Sterling Global, of course. James grabbed my arm. Stop playing games. How much do you know? Everything, I said quietly, including how you obtained the funding for Caroline's luxury lifestyle after our divorce. Those creative accounting practices caught my attention years ago. You're lying, Caroline hissed. James runs one of the largest corporations in Asia. Ran, I corrected gently. As of last week, Sterling Global has new ownership. Though I kept the name for now. It has such sentimental value, doesn't it? The champagne glass slipped from Caroline's fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Heads turned. That's impossible, James whispered. The only company with enough leverage to acquire controlling interest was Chen International Holdings, and that's my father's company, Michael finished, joining us with a broad grin. Though he kept that quiet while building it. Something about the advantage of being underestimated. Caroline stared at me, really seeing me for the first time in 15 years. Gone was the struggling chef she'd left. In his place stood the man who'd outmaneuvered her husband at his own game. All those years, she breathed, while we were mocking your food trucks. I was learning the business from the ground up, building relationships with suppliers, understanding market dynamics, studying international finance at night school. I straightened my modest tie. The restaurants were profitable, but they were also the perfect cover for watching your husband's company unravel. Dad, Michael beamed, you're actually brilliant. No, I corrected. Just patient, and motivated by something stronger than money. What's that? James asked hoarsely. The desire to teach my son that character matters more than status. That true success comes from hard work, not inheritance. Caroline sank into a chair. So all this time, while you were spending James's money, I was quietly buying his company. While you were hosting charity galas, I was hosting investor meetings. And while you were putting my name at the back of the guest list, you were putting your name on the deed, Michael finished. James straightened his tie nervously. We should discuss terms. Monday, I said firmly. Today is about Michael. Daddy, Caroline's voice had lost its edge. What happens now? Now? I looked at my son, Harvard graduate, future business leader, and the best thing Caroline and I had ever created together. Now we celebrate Michael's achievement. Monday's board meeting will take care of itself. As if on cue, servers appeared with trays of elegant hors d'oeuvres. I recognized them as creations from my first restaurant, the one Caroline had called a charity case when it opened. By the way, I added, the catering is courtesy of that little food truck business you found so amusing. We're now the preferred vendor for Harvard Business School events. Caroline watched as Boston's elite devoured the gourmet dumplings she'd once called peasant food. And James, she asked quietly, can keep his position with supervision if he cooperates with the federal investigation into those creative accounting practices. As they absorbed this final blow, Michael raised his glass. To new beginnings? To new beginnings, I agreed. And to the power of small dreams that refuse to stay small. The evening light filtered through Harvard's historic windows as the reception wound down. I stood in what was soon to be my office in the Sterling, soon to be Chen, School of Business, watching Caroline and James make their subdued exit. Dad. Michael entered, still in his graduation robes. Mom's asking if you'll meet with her. Alone. Of course she is. I turned from the window, now that she knows who really owns her lifestyle. She looked shattered when she realized all those business dinners you invited her to were actually board meetings she was too proud to attend. I smiled. Pride has a way of blinding people. Caroline entered tentatively, a word I'd never associated with her before. Gone was the imperious socialite who dominated the morning. In her place stood a woman facing the consequences of 15 years of poor choices. David, she began, then faltered. I don't even know what to call you now. Dad works fine, I said mildly. It's the title I'm most proud of. She sank into a chair, her designer dress crumpling. All these years, I thought I'd chosen the better life. The bigger dream. You chose the finished product, I corrected. I chose to build something. Those investor meetings you invited me to would have made you a partner in what became a billion-dollar company. I sat across from her, but you were too busy attending James's galas. And the restaurant openings were actually board meetings for Chen International. I smiled slightly. Your RSVPs always said too busy with real business matters. Tears smudged her perfect makeup. I was so wrong, David. About everything. Not everything. I glanced at Michael, who was watching us from the doorway. We did one thing perfectly right. She followed my gaze. He's amazing. But that's because of you, not me. He's amazing because he learned to value substance over appearance, to build rather than borrow, to earn rather than inherit. While I taught him shame about his heritage, she whispered, pushed him to hide his Chinese name to be more sterling than Chen. And yet he chose to write his thesis on Asian American entrepreneurship. I handed her a tissue. Kids have a way of finding their truth. What happens now? She dabbed at her eyes. To James? To the company? James keeps a position if he cooperates with the SEC investigation. The company will be restructured. And you will lose everything. We'll have choices. I opened a folder on the desk. You still own 20% of our original restaurant group. I never sold your shares. She stared at the documents, but I signed them over to James. And I bought them back. Quietly, they're worth considerably more now. Why? She looked up. Why would you do that after how I treated you? Because revenge wasn't my goal. Building something was. And maybe, I paused, maybe showing you that the man you once called small never stopped growing. Michael joined us, placing a hand on each of our shoulders. Mom, Dad's opening a new culinary school, focusing on Asian fusion cuisine and business management. The kind of education I had to piece together at night, I added, while running a food truck and raising a son. Caroline's hands trembled as she held the share certificates. I don't deserve this chance. Maybe not. I stood. But our son deserves to see that both his parents can learn and grow. The board position is yours if you want it, Michael added. Dad's idea. Something about understanding both sides of privilege. She looked between us. The ex-husband she'd underestimated and the son who'd surpassed all expectations. I'd like that. To learn, to really learn this time. Good. I gathered my coat. Because lesson 1 starts Monday. Board meeting, 9 a.m. No designer labels required. Just wisdom, Michael grinned. And maybe some humility. As we left the office, my office now, Caroline touched my arm. David. I turned. Thank you. Not for the shares or the position, but for showing our son what real success looks like. Real success. I glanced at Michael, standing tall in his graduation robes, is watching your child become someone you have to reach up to admire. The Cambridge evening wrapped around us as we walked out together, not as bitter exes or business rivals, but as two people who created something perfect in our imperfect way. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't in destroying what hurt you, but in building something better from the ruins. And sometimes I thought, watching Caroline really see me for the first time in 15 years. The best revenge is simply becoming someone they never thought you could be. The string quartet's melody floated through the marble halls of the Grand Plaza Hotel as I adjusted my simple navy dress. The same one I'd worn when signing the acquisition papers last week. 25 years of building my empire in silence had taught me patience. Today would test every ounce of it. Name? The hostess barely glanced up from her tablet. Olivia Sullivan. Her perfectly manicured fingers scrolled through the list, pausing with a slight frown. Ah yes. Table 27, near the kitchen entrance. Of course, I caught a glimpse of my ex-husband Marcus and his wife Sophia holding court at the main table, their designer clothes and practiced laughs screaming old money. Money that wasn't actually theirs anymore, though they didn't know that yet. Mom? Alexander's voice made me turn. My son stood tall in his tuxedo, looking every bit the successful surgeon he had become. They didn't put you at the main table. It's fine, sweetheart. I straightened his bow tie just as I used to straighten his school uniform. Your stepmother probably just made a mistake. His jaw tightened. This isn't right. You raised me alone for 10 years while Dad built his business. You worked 3 jobs to put me through med school. And now you're chief of surgery at 32. I touched his cheek. That's all that matters. Chief of surgery at his stepmother's hospital, a sharp voice cut in. Sophia glided toward us, dripping in diamonds that technically belong to my company now. Though of course, we can't expect everyone to understand the complexities of hospital administration. I bit back a smile, remembering the hospital board meeting where I had quietly purchased controlling shares through one of my shell companies. Sophie had been too busy ordering staff around to notice the quiet Asian woman taking notes in the corner. Sophia. I nodded politely. Lovely venue. Yes, well, She weighed dismissively. The plaza has been in Marcus's family for generations. Not that you'd remember, given how briefly you were married. Alexander started to speak, but I caught his eye. Not yet. How could I forget? I smiled. Though I hear the recent ownership changes have been interesting. Sophia's perfectly Botox forehead attempted to furrow. Changes? The plaza belongs to the Harrison Family Trust. Of course. I checked my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than her annual spa budget. I should find my seat. The ceremony will start soon. Yes, about that. Sophia's smile turned predatory. Given the circumstances of your involvement with the family, we thought you'd be more comfortable away from the main party. With the other staff. I watched Alexander's face darken and touched his arm gently. It's fine, sweetheart. Go check on your bride. This is your day. As he reluctantly walked away, Sophia leaned closer. You know, when Marcus told me he'd married the nanny, I assumed he was joking. But here you are, still clinging to relevance through my stepson. Interesting perspective. I adjusted my simple pearl necklace, the same one I had worn when signing the papers that transferred ownership of the plaza last month. Though I recall being a doctoral student when I met Marcus, a scholarship student playing at belonging in our world. She glanced at my understated outfit. At least you've learned to dress better than when you were changing diapers. A server approached with champagne. I recognized Maria, who had been here since I used to bring Alexander to visit his grandparents. Her eyes widened slightly. She had been in the staff meeting last week when my company announced the ownership change. Mrs. Sullivan, she started, but I gave a tiny shake of my head. Thank you, Maria. I took a glass. How's your daughter enjoying the nursing program? Sophia's eyes narrowed at my familiarity with the staff. Before she could comment, Marcus appeared. Ah, the help has arrived. He barely glanced at me. Sophia, darling, the Rockefellers are asking for you. Of course, she smirked. Olivia, do try not to embarrass Alexander today. The hospital board will be watching. I sipped my champagne, remembering the board meeting scheduled for Monday, the one where the new ownership would be revealed, along with some interesting discrepancies in Sophia's administrative expenses. The grand ballroom filled with Manhattan's elite, old money families who had looked down their noses at the scholarship student who dared marry into their world. Now they would look down their noses at my seating assignment, not realizing that most of their companies had been quietly acquired by my investment firm over the past decade. I found my table, tucked behind a column near the kitchen doors. My nameplate read former nanny in small plain text, while Sophia's gold embossed card at the main table proclaimed mother of the groom in elegant script. Mrs. Sullivan. Maria appeared again, distress clear on her face. This isn't right. We all know who you really are now, and I appreciate your discretion. I smiled warmly. How's the new healthcare package working out for the staff? It's amazing. Her eyes shone. My husband's diabetes medication is finally covered. We never had benefits like this under the old ownership. I'm glad to hear it. I watched Sophia ordering around younger servers, making one girl nearly cry over a slightly crooked place setting. Things will continue to improve. The ceremony was about to begin. Guests found their seats, many sneaking double takes at my isolated position. Alexander kept shooting worried glances my way, but I gave him my best reassuring smile. This was his day, even if his father and stepmother were determined to minimize my role in it. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus's voice boomed through the ballroom. Welcome to this joyous celebration. As father of the groom and owner of this magnificent historic hotel, I hid my smile behind my champagne glass. Monday's board meeting would be interesting indeed. We're honored to host Manhattan's finest families as my son joins his life with the daughter of Senator Maxwell. Sophia preened at his side, her designer gown catching the light. The same designer whose company I had acquired last year, though the paperwork hadn't been finalized yet. As Marcus continued his speech about family legacy and proper breeding, I thought about the real legacy I had built. The quiet empire assembled piece by piece while working my way through doctoral programs, raising my son alone, and enduring their condescension. Mom. Alexander had slipped away from the head table to squeeze my hand. Let me say something. Tell them who you really are. Not yet, sweetheart. I patted his cheek. Some lessons are best learned slowly. Now go be the brilliant surgeon and wonderful man I raised you to be. The rest will unfold as it should. As he returned to his place, I caught Sophia watching us with narrowed eyes. She raised her glass in a mocking toast to the help, not realizing she had just toasted her new boss. The first course arrived, carried by staff who now had full benefits and fair wages under my ownership. Soon the entire city would know that the former nanny they had tried so hard to hide owned not just the plaza, but most of their precious family empires. But for now, I sipped my champagne and watched the show unfold. After all, I hadn't built a multi-billion-dollar corporation by revealing my cards too soon. The wedding reception was in full swing when Sophia decided to make her power play. She clinked her crystal champagne glass, drawing everyone's attention as she stood gracefully. As mother of the groom, she emphasized with a pointed look in my direction, "I'd like to share some special memories of raising Alexander." I watched my son's face tighten as Sophia launched into stories of his medical school graduation, his first surgery, his hospital appointment, all moments she had merely witnessed while I worked double shifts to fund his education. And of course, she continued sweetly, we must acknowledge the domestic help who assisted during his early years. Olivia, dear, would you stand? Several guests tittered. Maria, serving nearby, nearly dropped her tray in indignation. I rose slowly, smoothing my navy dress. Thank you, Sophia. Though I believe my title then was doctoral candidate, not domestic help. Of course, she waved dismissively. Though let's be honest, changing diapers was more your speed than changing hospital policies, wasn't it? Before I could respond, Senator Maxwell, father of Alexander's bride, joined the conversation. Speaking of hospital policies, I heard rumors about ownership changes at Metropolitan General. Sophia, isn't that your hospital? Sophia's smile faltered slightly. Our family trust maintains controlling interests naturally, though there's been some minor restructuring. Minor? The senator raised an eyebrow. Word is, someone bought out the majority shares through a series of shell companies. Very quietly, very efficiently. I hid my smile behind my water glass. The senator had always been more observant than most of Manhattan's elite. Impossible, Marcus cut in. The board would have informed us of any significant changes. Monday's board meeting should be illuminating, I offered mildly. Sophia's head snapped toward me. What would you know about board meetings? Oh, you'd be surprised what one learns while being invisible. I straightened my pearl necklace. The service staff, for instance, has quite a few opinions about your management style. The color drained from Sophia's face. Marcus, she's threatening me. Not threatening, dear. I sipped my water. Just observing. Like I observe your creative accounting with the hospital's charitable foundation. The IRS finds such observations quite interesting. Marcus stood abruptly. That's enough. Security. I wouldn't, I said softly, unless you want Monday's revelations to happen today instead. Alexander appeared at my side. Dad, Sophia, you really don't want to do this. Alexander, darling, Sophia's voice turned saccharine. I know you feel obligated to defend her, but really, she's embarrassing herself. No, he said firmly, you're embarrassing yourselves. Do you want to know who really paid for my medical school? Who attended every surgery rotation at 5 a.m.? Who worked 3 jobs while completing her PhD so I could focus on my studies? The ballroom had grown silent, guests openly watching the drama unfold. A PhD she never finished, Sophia sniffed. Actually, I smiled, I finished it last year. My thesis on hostile takeovers and corporate restructuring was quite well received. In fact, I used several of your family companies as case studies. Marcus's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. What are you talking about? The plaza's ownership changes, for instance. Quite fascinating how a series of seemingly unrelated investment firms gradually acquired controlling interest, or Metropolitan General's recent board restructuring. Did you know most of your shareholders sold their stakes last month? Sophia gripped Marcus's arm. She's lying. She's just a nanny who got lucky. Mom, Alexander interrupted. Just tell them. I stood addressing the room. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Olivia Sullivan, PhD, CEO of Sullivan Global Ventures, and as of Monday, majority shareholder of Metropolitan General, the Plaza Hotel, and several other enterprises previously held by the Harrison Family Trust. The silence was deafening. That's impossible, Marcus whispered. The quiet Asian woman taking notes in your board meetings? I raised an eyebrow. The one you never bothered to acknowledge. She wasn't a secretary, Marcus. She was your competition. Senator Maxwell started laughing. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I knew those acquisitions seemed too sophisticated for the usual players. Sophia collapsed into her chair, her perfect makeup unable to hide her shock. But the hospital, my position, is under review, I finished, along with your creative use of foundation funds. Though unsure the board will take into account any genuine remorse and commitment to change. Mom, Alexander touched my arm. You didn't have to wait so long to tell them. Sometimes I straighten his bow tie again. People need to reveal their true character before they can learn from their mistakes. Maria appeared with fresh champagne, grinning openly now. Congratulations on the wedding, Dr. Sullivan, and on everything else. Thank you, Maria. I turned to the stunned crowd. Now shall we return to celebrating Alexander's special day? Though perhaps with some adjustments to the seating arrangements. As the guests buzzed with this juicy new gossip, Marcus approached me slowly. Olivia, I never meant to treat me like a servant, to let your wife humiliate the mother of your child. I met his eyes calmly. Actions have consequences, Marcus. Remember that at Monday's board meeting. The morning sun streamed through the plaza's windows as I sat in what was once Marcus's office, reviewing the final documentation for Monday's board meeting. The wedding aftermath had been exactly as dramatic as expected. A soft knock at the door revealed Alexander, still in his honeymoon suit. Mom, about a minute? Always for you. I set aside the papers. Shouldn't you be heading to Bali? Flight's in 3 hours. He sat down looking thoughtful. Dad and Sophia are in the lobby, asking to speak with you. Dad looks different, almost broken. I checked my watch, a habit from years of juggling multiple jobs. They're early. The board meeting isn't until Monday. I think they want to negotiate. Alexander leaned forward. Mom, how long have you been planning this? Since the day Sophia had security escort me out of your high school graduation. I smiled at the memory. She said I was embarrassing the family by wearing a clearance rack dress. That was the day I decided to buy the store chain she loved so much. And the hospital? The plaza? One piece at a time, over 15 years. I stood walking to the window. While they were focused on appearances, I was focused on substance. Every time they excluded me from an event, I acquired another share. Every time they seated me by the kitchen, I bought another company. The intercom buzzed. Dr. Sullivan, Mr. Harrison and Mrs. Harrison are here. Send them in. Marcus entered first, his usual confident stride replaced by hesitation. Sophia followed, her designer outfit noticeably subdued. Olivia, Marcus started, then corrected himself. Dr. Sullivan, we've been up all night discussing everything. Discussing your options, you mean? I gestured to the chairs. Please sit. Sophia remained standing. This is our family legacy you're destroying. No, Sophia, you destroyed it with your arrogance. I opened a file. Shall we discuss the $2 million in hospital foundation funds used for your personal expenses? She sank into a chair. Mom, Alexander interjected. Maybe there's a way to what, sweetheart? Allow them to continue mismanaging these institutions? I turned to Marcus. The plaza's staff hadn't received raises in 5 years. The hospital's nurse-to-patient ratio was dangerous. While you two focused on galas and social status, people suffered. We can change, Marcus said quietly. Give us a chance to prove it. I studied my ex-husband, the man who had once told me I'd never succeed without his family's connections. You'll both retain minor shares. Board positions will depend on your cooperation with the new policies. New policies? Sophia's voice quavered. Living wages for all staff, expanded healthcare coverage, educational assistance programs. I smiled at Alexander. The same opportunities I fought to give our son. And our positions? Marcus asked. You'll report to the board. Your decisions will be reviewed. And, I added pointedly, you'll treat every employee with respect, regardless of their title. Sophia stood abruptly. This is humiliating. More humiliating than marking the mother of the groom as former nanny at her son's wedding. Alexander's voice was sharp. More humiliating than making Mom use service entrances for 15 years. Alexander, I touched his arm. They understand now, don't they? Marcus nodded slowly. We do. And I'm sorry, Olivia, for everything. Apology accepted. I handed them each a folder. These are your new contracts if you choose to accept them. The terms are fair, though significantly different from your previous arrangements. And if we decline? Sophia asked. Then you'll receive fair market value for your remaining shares, and the board will thank you for your service. They exchanged glances, years of superiority crumbling under the weight of reality. We'll sign, Marcus said quietly. As they bent over the contracts, Alexander hugged me. I'm proud of you, Mom, though I wish you'd told me sooner. You needed to make your own way without the shadow of either fortune hanging over you. I straightened his collar one last time. Now go enjoy your honeymoon. The hospital will be in better shape when you return. After they all left, I stood at the window watching Manhattan's morning unfold. Maria appeared with coffee. The staff is celebrating Mrs. Dr. Sullivan, she grinned. Though some wish they could have seen their faces at the wedding when you revealed everything. Sometimes the best victories are the quiet ones. I sipped the coffee. How's the nursing program application coming along? Submitted last week. Her eyes shone. With the new education benefits, my daughter can finally follow her dreams. That's what this was all about. I sat at my desk, the same desk where Marcus had once told me to know my place. Making sure everyone has the chance to rise. The morning sun caught my simple pearl necklace, the first real piece of jewelry I bought myself after my company went public. Outside, a new day was dawning over Manhattan, and with it a new era for the empire I'd built through silence and determination. Sometimes the best revenge isn't the dramatic reveal, but the quiet triumph of proving them wrong, one success at a time. The marble floors of the grand ballroom echoed with expensive heels and judgment. I smoothed down my red Target dress, the same one Meredith Harrison had loudly mocked at last year's school fundraiser. Oh look, her perfectly highlighted head tilted toward her equally polished friends. Sarah's still shopping in the bargain basement. I caught my husband David's subtle head shake, silently asking me not to engage. After 3 years of marriage, he still tried to shield me from his ex-wife's venom. If only he knew what was coming. Stepmom. James, my 16-year-old stepson, rushed over with a warm hug. Despite Meredith's best efforts, her son had never treated me like an outsider. You made it. Dad said you might be stuck in meetings all day. And miss your academic award ceremony. Never. I straightened his tie, ignoring the whispers from Meredith's corner. Though I did have to reschedule quite a few signatures. Signatures? Meredith sauntered over, champagne in hand. Her designer dress probably cost more than most people's monthly salaries. Still working as a personal assistant, Sarah? How? Quaint. Something like that. I smiled, thinking of the acquisition papers sitting on my desk, the ones that would make me the owner of the department store empire her family had controlled for 3 generations. Mom, stop, James muttered. Sarah's actually really successful. Sweetheart, successful people don't shop at Target. Meredith's friends tittered behind their manicured hands. Though I suppose we can't all maintain certain standards after divorce. Your father's new choices reflect that. David stepped forward, but I touched his arm. The ceremony's starting, I said quietly. Let's focus on James' achievements. We took our seats, Meredith deliberately placing herself in the front row while directing us to the back. Family up front, she announced sweetly. You understand. I did understand, more than she knew. I understood exactly how much her family's company was worth, how deeply in debt they were, and how desperately they needed the buyout I'd orchestrated through my investment firm. Tomorrow the papers would be public. Tonight, I could enjoy the show. The dean began announcing awards. James, brilliant like his father, had earned top honors in mathematics and science. I beamed with genuine pride. This boy who'd accepted me so easily had a bright future ahead. He gets his brains from our side, Meredith Stage whispered to her friend. God knows what he'd inherit from other influences. A memory surfaced, me at 22, working 3 jobs while building my first company, the same drive that had turned a small tech startup into a billion-dollar investment firm. The same determination that had caught David's eye when we met at a business conference, him representing his law firm, me quietly acquiring companies twice my age. Did you see her shoes? Meredith's voice carried deliberately. I didn't even know they still made plastic heels. Better than being in debt to afford designer labels, I murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. She whirled around, face flushing. Excuse me? Nothing. I smiled serenely, just appreciating the ceremony. The reception afterward was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Meredith held court among her society friends, all of them carefully positioned to exclude me from their circles. Their laughter grew louder whenever I passed. Their comments just pointed enough to maintain deniability. Sarah, Meredith cornered me by the dessert table. A word? Of course. I selected a chocolate-covered strawberry, noting how her eye twitched at my apparent calm. I don't know what you think you're doing, she hissed, playing happy families with my son and ex-husband. But you don't belong in our world. Look at you, you can't even dress properly for an event like this. I examined my dress thoughtfully. You know, Meredith, there's something interesting about designer clothes. Oh, finally developing some taste. No, I met her eyes, just thinking about how they don't actually make the person wearing them any better than anyone else. They're just fabric and labels. You wouldn't understand, she scoffed. Some of us have standards to maintain, family names to uphold. Family names like Harrison and Sons, the department store chain her great-grandfather had founded. The one her father had nearly bankrupted with bad investments. The one she didn't know was about to have a very different signature on its ownership papers. Speaking of standards, I said carefully, how are things at the store? I heard there were some challenges. Her perfectly made-up face flickered with worry before smoothing over. Everything's fine, not that it's any of your business. You'd be surprised what becomes my business. I finished my strawberry. Have a lovely evening, Meredith. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other very soon. As I walked away, I heard her mutter, delusional little gold digger. David found me later, concern etching his features. I heard what she said. All of it. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Don't be. I kissed his cheek. Some people need to learn lessons the hard way. Still, he squeezed my hand. You don't deserve. Trust me, I interrupted gently. Everything is exactly as it should be. Though, I glanced at my watch. Tomorrow might be interesting. What do you mean? I thought of the papers waiting to be filed, the press release scheduled for 9 a.m., and Meredith's upcoming realization that her family's empire now belonged to the woman she dismissed as beneath her. Let's just say, I smiled. Some people should be careful who they call bargain basement. James bounded over then, proud of his awards and oblivious to the undercurrents. As I hugged him, I caught Meredith watching us, her expression a mixture of disdain and uncertainty. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, I was content knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't showing your hand too soon. It's letting people reveal exactly who they are before you show them exactly who you've become. Monday morning arrived with a predictable media storm. By 9:15 a.m., the business news headlines were splashing everywhere. Harrison and Sons acquired by shadow investment firm. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications, but I was more interested in the security feed from Harrison's flagship store. Meredith always arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, making her grand entrance through the executive entrance like the retail princess she believed herself to be. Today wouldn't disappoint. Ms. Walker. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Harrison is demanding an emergency board meeting. She's quite insistent. I bet she is. I straightened my blazer, Armani, though I'd never bothered telling Meredith that. Tell her the new owner will meet with her at 11 in her father's old office. The next hour was a symphony of chaos. Meredith called David's law firm 7 times, apparently hoping he could somehow stop the acquisition. Her father, retired in Palm Beach, was probably just now realizing how completely he'd lost control of his legacy. At 10:55, I stepped into the ornate office that had belonged to 3 generations of Harrisons. The decor screamed old money, all dark wood and leather, designed to intimidate. I settled behind the massive desk, remembering how many times Meredith had hosted her society friends here for charitable planning sessions that were really just excuses to flaunt her position. Right on cue, the door burst open. This is impossible. Meredith stormed in, waving papers. Some shell company can't just. Who do you think? She froze, finally registering who sat in her father's chair. What are you doing here? Good morning, Meredith. I gestured to the visitor's chair. Please sit. You, her perfectly maintained facade cracked. You're behind this. Shadow Peak Investments is my company, has been for 15 years. I waited while she processed this. though you'd know that if he'd ever bothered to look beyond appearances. She sank into the chair, designer purse clutched like a shield. But, you wear Target dresses. Because I choose to. I opened a folder on the desk. Just like I chose to buy this company when your father started secretly shopping it around. The same company you bragged about inheriting while mocking my bargain basement lifestyle. My father would never. Your father had no choice. I slid over a financial report. 3 years of declining profits. Massive personal loans taken against company assets. The holiday season projections are abysmal. Though you'd know that if you spent more time reviewing reports instead of planning charity galas. Color drained from her face. We can fix this. Our name is no longer on the building. I stood walking to the window overlooking the store's main entrance. By noon, the new signage goes up. By next week, the restructuring begins. You can't do this. She jumped up, hands shaking. This store is my legacy, my life. No, Meredith, it was your privilege. One you used to belittle others while contributing nothing to its actual success. I turned back to her. Do you know how many of your employees shop at Target? The same store you mock me for visiting. She flinched. The same hard-working people you treat like servants. The ones who actually keep this business running while you hold court in this office. I returned to the desk. That changes today. What do you want? Her voice cracked. Money? Position? To humiliate me? Unlike you, I don't need to humiliate others to feel successful. I opened another folder. But I do meet competent employees who understand retail from the ground up. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means you have 2 choices. I laid out 2 contracts. You can clean out your office today, take a generous severance, and find somewhere else to feel superior to others. Or, she eyed the second contract suspiciously. Or you can start over. Entry level. Learn the business properly, work your way up based on merit instead of name. Prove you're more than just a surname and a designer wardrobe. You expect me to work as a regular employee. She looked horrified. I expect you to earn your position, like everyone else. I leaned back. Your choice. Though I should mention, that country club membership you love so much. It comes with the executive position you're about to lose. Meredith stared at the contracts, her world visibly crumbling. The same woman who'd spent years mocking my clothes, my background, my very presence in her social circle, was finally facing reality. And James, she whispered, what will people say when they learn his mother works as a shop girl? They'll say his mother finally learned the value of honest work. I checked my watch. You have until noon to decide. Though given your recent credit card statements, I consider the steady paycheck option carefully. She reached for the second contract with trembling fingers. I never knew. How did you hide this all this time? I didn't hide anything, Meredith. You just never looked past the price tags to see the person. I stood signaling the end of our meeting. Report to HR at 2 p.m. and Meredith, that Target dress you mocked at the reunion? I wore it deliberately. Sometimes the best way to know someone's character is to let them think they have the upper hand. As she left, clutching her contract like a life preserver, I thought about how different things could have been if she'd chosen kindness over cruelty, substance over status. But then again, some lessons can only be learned the hard way. My phone buzzed. A text from David. I just heard, "You're incredible." I smiled, remembering all the times he wanted to defend me against Meredith's barbs. Some revenge is best served in a Target dress, I replied. The new signage was going up outside. By tomorrow, everyone would know that Harrison and Sons had a new owner, one who understood the value of both designer labels and discount racks. One who knew that true worth isn't found in a price tag or a family name. But for now, I had a company to run and a former socialite to teach about honest work, starting with tomorrow's inventory count. 3 months later, I stood in the store's employee break room, watching Meredith struggle with the coffee maker. Her perfectly manicured nails were chipped, her designer clothes replaced by the standard staff uniform. The filter goes the other way, I offered, hiding my smile as she jumped. I knew that. She fumbled with the paper filter, a far cry from the woman who once commanded this store like her personal kingdom. I was just learning, I finished. That's the point. Surprisingly, she hadn't quit. Despite the whispers, despite her former society friends suddenly becoming too busy for lunch dates, Despite the humiliation of working alongside people she'd once barely acknowledged, Meredith Harrison was actually trying. The holiday rush starts next week, I reminded her. Are you ready for your first Black Friday on the sales floor? She paled slightly but straightened her spine. I've been studying the procedures. Tracy, my supervisor, says I'm improving. Tracy, a 20-year veteran of retail who Meredith had once dismissed as the help, had become an unlikely mentor. It turned out that when you stripped away the privilege and pretense, Meredith wasn't entirely impossible. Mom? James appeared in the doorway, his face brightening at seeing both of us. Sarah, I didn't know you'd be here today. Just checking on things. I watched Meredith's face soften at her son's presence. This was the real reason she'd stayed, to prove something to him, and maybe to herself. Mom's getting really good, James said proudly. I came in last weekend, and she helped me find the perfect tie for debate club. She even knew about the sale promotions and everything. Meredith blushed, actually blushed. It's just basic product knowledge. Nothing special. Actually, I interjected, your customer satisfaction scores have been consistently high. Tracy mentioned you're particularly good with first-time shoppers. Well, she smoothed her uniform. I suppose I understand feeling intimidated by luxury retail now. How it feels to be judged for not knowing designers or trends. And there it was, the lesson I hoped she'd learn. The holiday bonus structure comes out next week, I mentioned casually. Top performers get first pick of shifts and additional commission opportunities. Meredith's eyes lit up with familiar ambition, but different now. Earned, not entitled. I should get back to the floor, she said, checking her basic watch. No more diamond-studded timepieces. The new collection needs organizing, and I promised Tracy I'd help train the seasonal hires. After she left, James turned to me. Thank you. For what? For giving her a chance to be better. He smiled, wise beyond his years. Dad told me what really happened. How you could have just fired her. This was kinder, wasn't it? Harder, but kinder. Sometimes people need to walk in others' shoes to understand their journey. I straightened his debate club tie. Your mother's learning that lesson well. Later that evening, as I prepared to leave, I passed the main floor. Meredith was helping an elderly woman who reminded me of myself years ago. Simple clothes, careful with money, but wanting something special. Don't worry about the designer names, I heard Meredith say gently. Let's find something that makes you feel beautiful, regardless of the label. Actually, we have some wonderful options on our clearance rack. David was waiting in the car outside. Productive day? Very. I shoved him a photo on my phone. Meredith and Tracy laughing together in the break room, no trace of the former social hierarchy. Your ex-wife may surprise us all. You knew she could change, he said. That's why you did it this way. I knew she needed to learn what really matters. I thought about my own journey from struggling entrepreneur to successful CEO. Designer labels don't make the person. Neither does shopping at Target. It's how you treat people that shows your true worth. As we drove away, I glimpsed Meredith through the store window, earnestly helping her elderly customer. The woman who once mocked my Target dress was now proudly earning her success, one sale at a time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's giving someone the chance to become better than they ever thought they could be, even if that lesson starts in the clearance section. The crystal chandeliers of the Westbrook Hotel ballroom sparkled almost as brightly as Victoria Patterson's diamonds as she held court among the city's legal elite. My husband, Michael, squeezed my hand as his ex-wife's perfectly pitched laugh carried across the room. Did you see what Michael's new wife is wearing? Victoria's stage whisper reached us clearly. I suppose not everyone understands how to dress for these occasions. I smoothed down my navy blue dress. Simple, elegant, and yes, purchased from a department store sale. Michael started to turn, but I held him back. Don't, I murmured. Tonight's not the time. Olivia, you shouldn't have to. Trust me, I smiled, thinking of the documents waiting in my office. Some things are worth waiting for. Victoria sauntered over, champagne in hand. Her red designer gown probably cost more than most junior associates' monthly salaries. Olivia, darling, I almost didn't recognize you without your usual attire. Her eyes swept dismissively over my dress. Though I suppose not everyone can afford Valentino. Some of us have different priorities, I replied mildly, watching her perfectly plucked eyebrows rise. Yes, well, she smirked. I suppose when you're just a small business consultant, you have to make certain compromises. If she only knew that my small business consulting involved acquiring and restructuring multi-million-dollar companies, including, as of next week, Patterson Communications, the PR firm where she'd been ruling with her particular brand of elegant cruelty for 15 years. "How's work, Victoria?" I asked innocently. I heard there were some changes coming at Patterson Communications. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face before her social mask slipped back into place. "Just rumors. You know how people love to gossip. We're stronger than ever." Lie. The firm was hemorrhaging clients, bleeding talent, and desperately seeking a buyer. A buyer they found in my investment company, hidden behind layers of corporate anonymity. Of course, I nodded. Though I did hear something about new ownership. Ridiculous. She waved her hand dismissively, but I caught the slight tremor in her fingers. I would know if anything was happening. I am the executive director after all. Speaking of directing, her friend Amanda joined us. Victoria just landed the Maxwell account. 7 figures. She gave me a pitying look. "But I'm sure your little consulting business is quaint." I thought about the Maxwell contract already being quietly transferred to their competitor under my guidance. Victoria would learn about that particular loss on Monday, along with her new employment status. "Congratulations," I said. "That must be quite a responsibility." "Some of us were born for success," Victoria preened. "It's just natural leadership. Not everyone can understand that level of business acumen." Michael, who'd been quietly seeking beside me, finally spoke. "Victoria, enough." "Oh, come now, Michael, I'm just trying to help." She patted my arm condescendingly. "There's this lovely consignment shop downtown. Perhaps Olivia could find something more appropriate for your next partner event." "I'll keep that in mind," I replied, checking my phone as a crucial email arrived. The final paperwork was ready. Perfect timing. "Do," she smiled sharply. "After all, you represent Michael now. It must be so challenging trying to fit into our world." Our world. If she only knew how many companies in her world I quietly controlled, how many boards I sat on under various names, how her precious PR firm was just the latest in a long line of successful acquisitions. You know what they say, I met her gaze steadily, appearances can be deceiving. "Not in my experience," she laughed, turning to the gathering crowd of sycophants around her. "Quality shows. You can't hide good breeding and success." The rest of the evening was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Victoria orchestrated a careful campaign of exclusion, always standing just far enough away that I'd have to awkwardly stretch to join conversations, always dropping little comments about proper business attire and understanding one's place. "I don't know how you stay so calm," Michael whispered as we watched her hold court by the dessert table. "She's being horrible." "Because on Monday," I smiled, "everything changes." "What do you mean?" Before I could answer, Victoria's voice carried across the room again. "It's just sad, really. Some people marry for love. Others, well, let's just say a bargain bin dress usually signals bargain bin ambitions." Several of her friends tittered behind their hands. I saw red faces among the junior associates and a few uncomfortable looks from the partners. Nobody challenged Victoria Patterson, not when she controlled the PR destiny of half their client list. "Should I say something?" Michael asked, his jaw tense. "As a partner." "No," I touched his arm. "Let her have tonight. Monday will be soon enough." "You keep saying that. What's happening Monday?" I thought about the email I just received, the carefully orchestrated changes about to unfold. Let's just say Victoria might want to save her fashion advice for herself. She'll need it for job interviews. He looked at me sharply. "Olivia, what did you do?" "Nothing she hasn't earned," I assured him. "Sometimes the best lessons come from experiencing what you've put others through." Victoria chose that moment to make one final pass by our table. "Leaving so soon? I suppose discount stores do close early." She smiled at Michael. "Remember when we used to close down these parties, darling?" "Times change." I stood gathering my purse. "People change. Positions change." What's that supposed to mean? "You'll find out." I smiled genuinely for the first time that evening. "Have a lovely weekend, Victoria. I'll see you bright and early Monday morning." As we left, I heard her asking Michael what I meant. His confused silence was answer enough. Neither of them knew that while Victoria had been building her empire of social cruelty, I've been building something far more substantial. Monday would change everything. But tonight, I was content knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't in fighting back. It's in waiting for exactly the right moment to reveal who really holds the power. And it has nothing to do with designer dresses. Monday morning arrived with the precision of a well-orchestrated symphony. At exactly 8:45 a.m., security teams entered Patterson Communications, implementing new protocols. At 9 a.m., the company-wide email went out announcing the acquisition. By 9:15, Victoria's perfectly maintained world began to crumble. I watched through the glass walls of what had been her corner office as she stormed through the building's revolving doors at 9:30. Her Louboutins clicking against the marble with military precision. The security guard, new and therefore unaware of her usual royal treatment, stopped her for ID. "This is outrageous," her voice carried through the lobby. "I am the executive director." "Miss Patterson." My new head of operations approached her. "The new CEO would like to see you immediately." I turned away from the window, settling behind the desk that had been hers just hours ago. Her designer handbags still sat in a glass display case she'd had installed, a power move to intimidate junior staff with her wealth. Those would be going to charity by noon. The door burst open. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria stood in the doorway, face flushed despite her perfect makeup. "Who dares to? You." "Good morning, Victoria." I gestured to the visitor's chair, the same one where she'd made countless employees cry during her infamous performance reviews. "Please have a seat." "This is impossible." She didn't move. "You're a small-time consultant. You wear bargain clothes." "Actually, I picked up a folder. I'm the CEO of Summit Ventures. We just acquired Patterson Communications for a remarkably low price, considering its potential. Though that's what happens when poor management drives away half the client base." She sank into the chair, her designer suit wrinkled from her grip. "You're lying. This is some kind of joke." The only joke, I slid over the acquisition papers, was thinking that designer labels and social connections could hide incompetent leadership. "Your client retention rates are abysmal. Employee turnover is at 60%. And let's discuss the Maxwell account you were bragging about Friday night. What about it? They signed with your competitor this morning, along with 3 other major accounts who were tired of paying premium prices for subpar service." Color drained from her face. But my position is being eliminated." I opened another folder. The executive director role was largely ceremonial anyway, mostly used for attending parties and intimidating staff, from what I've seen. "You can't do this." She leaned forward, manicured hands gripping the desk. "Do you know who I am in this city, who my family is?" "I know exactly who you are, Victoria. That's why I bought this company." I met her eyes steadily. "I've watched you destroy careers because people couldn't afford the right clothes. I've seen you humiliate talented employees for shopping at department stores, the same stores you mocked me for using. This is about Friday night, some petty revenge over a few comments about your cheap dress?" "No." I stood walking to her wall of awards, all about to be replaced with actual employee achievements. "This is about building a company culture based on merit, not labels. About valuing substance over status. I built this firm's reputation." "You destroyed it." I corrected. "But I'm going to fix that, starting with a complete restructuring." "I'll fight this," she threatened. "My lawyers already reviewed the sale. It's ironclad." I returned to the desk. "However, I'm not completely heartless. I have a proposition for you." She straightened, hope flickering across her face. "Go on." "You can walk away now with 3 months severance, or," I slid over another contract, "you can stay on in a new role." "What role?" she asked suspiciously. "Junior account coordinator. Entry level. You'll learn the business from the ground up, properly this time." "You expect me to work as a junior?" She looked horrified. "Under people who used to report to me?" "Under people who actually know how to do the job," I corrected. "People you previously judged by their clothing rather than their capabilities." Victoria stared at the contract, her perfectly curated world collapsing. "And if I refuse?" "Then you can explain to your social circle why you're suddenly unemployed. I hear the country club has strict membership requirements about employment status." Her hand trembled as she reached for the contract. "Why are you really doing this?" "Because sometimes people need to walk in others' shoes to understand their value." I handed her a pen. "Your choice, Victoria. But decide quickly. Your old office needs to be cleared by noon. My office? She looked around, reality finally sinking in. You're taking my office. Actually, this space is being converted into a collaborative workspace for the junior staff. I'll be working from a standard office, like everyone else. She signed the contract with shaking fingers, her signature far less confident than her usual flourish. When do I start? Tomorrow. Report to HR at 8 a.m. for new employee orientation. Oh, and Victoria, I smiled slightly. The dress code has changed. Business casual from any store you can afford on your new salary. As she left, clutching her designer bag like a shield, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Just heard about Patterson Communications. You're brilliant. Some battles are won with spreadsheets, not shoes, I replied. I walked to the window, watching Victoria cross the lobby. Her head was held high, but her shoulders showed the weight of her new reality. Tomorrow, she'd learn what it felt like to be on the other side of privilege, to have her work, not her wardrobe, determine her worth. The security guard was already changing the nameplate on the building directory. By week's end, Patterson Communications would have a new name, new values, and a culture built on merit instead of Prada. But first, I had a corner office to convert and a former queen bee to humble. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying someone's kingdom. It's in making them earn their place in a new one difficult lesson at a time. 6 months later, I watched through my office blinds as Victoria explained a campaign strategy to our newest client. Her presentation was flawless, her insights sharp. More surprisingly, she was wearing a mid-range business suit and actually listening to feedback from her junior team members. Quite a transformation, Michael said from the doorway. He'd stopped by to take me to lunch, as he often did now that my office was just 3 blocks from his law firm. She's actually good at the work, I admitted. When she stopped focusing on status and started focusing on substance, the changes hadn't come easily. Victoria's first week as junior account coordinator had been a masterclass in humility. She'd struggled with the coffee maker, fumbled with the copy machine, and nearly cried when asked to create her first spreadsheet. But surprisingly, she hadn't quit. Ms. Walker, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Victoria Patterson would like a moment of your time. Send her in. Victoria entered, clutching a folder. Gone were the intimidating designer outfits and superior attitude. Instead, she carried herself with a different kind of confidence, one earned through actual achievement. The Thompson campaign numbers, she said, placing the folder on my desk. We exceeded projections by 30%. I saw that. I gestured for her to sit. Your team did excellent work. Our team, she corrected, then smiled slightly, something I wouldn't have said 6 months ago. Michael excused himself, leaving us to talk. The tension that had once crackled between us had evolved into something more complex. Not quite friendship, but mutual respect. You know, Victoria said carefully, I owe you an apology. Oh? I spent years judging people by their clothes, their status, their surface. She smoothed her simple skirt. I missed so much talent, so many opportunities because I was too focused on labels. It's an easy trap to fall into, I acknowledge. Society encourages it. But it's not real power, is it? She met my eyes. Real power is building something, earning respect, actually knowing your business from the ground up. I thought about my own journey, building my investment firm from nothing while people like Victoria had mocked my off-the-rack suits and sensible shoes. The team is recommending you for a promotion, I said, watching her face. Senior account manager, you've earned it. Her eyes widened. Really? Even after? The past is the past. You've proven yourself these last 6 months. The promotion comes with a raise, more responsibility, and, I paused, a corner office. Actually, she said, surprising me, I prefer to stay in the open workspace with my team. If that's okay. I've learned more from listening to their ideas than I ever did alone in that big office. I hid my smile. The lesson had truly sunk in. There's one more thing, Victoria added. Remember Amanda? My friend from the law firm party? How could I forget? She'd been Victoria's eager partner in mocking my bargain bin dress that night. She's looking for a job. Her husband's firm downsized and Victoria hesitated. I told her we don't make hiring decisions based on social connections anymore. That she'd need to apply through HR and prove her qualifications like everyone else. That must have been a difficult conversation. It was. Victoria stood, straightening her shoulders. But I learned from the best about the difference between real success and just looking successful. After she left, I picked up my phone to see a text from Michael. Ready for lunch. Just finished an interesting conversation with your ex-wife, I replied. Everything okay. Better than okay. She finally understands that true power isn't in what you wear or who you know. It's in what you build and how you treat people along the way. As I gathered my things for lunch, I glanced out at the office floor. Victoria was back with her team, engaged in animated discussion, her designer purse replaced by a practical laptop bag. The woman who once ruled through fear now led through respect. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemies, but in helping them become better people. Victoria had lost her kingdom of luxury labels and social superiority, but she'd gained something more valuable, genuine success and self-respect. And me? I still wore what I wanted, bought what I chose, and led one of the city's most successful companies. But now I had something extra, the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the best revenge is simply showing someone a better way to live. As I left for lunch, I passed Victoria's desk and noticed a small frame she'd recently added. Inside was a quote, "Success isn't about what you wear, it's about what you build." I smiled. Lesson learned. The windshield wipers barely kept up with the downpour as I navigated through the exclusive Oakwood Hills neighborhood. My daughter Emma's voice still echoed in my head from the payphone call. "Mom, she just pushed me out. My clothes are soaked, and I don't know where to go." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, forcing myself to maintain composure. There, under the dim glow of a street lamp, stood my daughter. Her long dark hair was plastered to her face, her school uniform completely drenched. The sight of her small figure huddled against the rain made my blood boil. "Emma," I pulled over, jumping out with an umbrella. She ran into my arms, shivering. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just accidentally spilled water on her new white couch, and she completely lost it." "Shh, baby. Get in the car." I wrapped my cashmere scarf around her shoulders, the same scarf I'd worn earlier that day while finalizing the paperwork to acquire Lux Retail Group, where Patricia had just been celebrating her promotion to Senior Vice President of Operations. Once Emma was settled in the passenger seat with the heat blasting, I pulled out my phone and dialed Patricia's number. "What?" Her voice dripped with disdain. "If this is about your daughter's attitude problem, this is about you throwing a minor out into a storm," I cut in, keeping my voice level. "Do you realize that's technically child endangerment?" Patricia laughed. "Please, she's 16, not 6. Besides, this is a safe neighborhood. Nothing like that dumpy suburb where you live." I glanced at my modest townhouse's address on the caller ID and smiled. Patricia had no idea I owned half the properties in her precious gated community through one of my holding companies. "I want her things," I said firmly. "Her phone, her school bag, everything she left at your house." "Fine. Send David to get them tomorrow. I'm busy tonight. Some of us have important careers to manage." I could hear ice cubes clinking in what was probably her nightly martini. "Yes, I heard about your promotion at Lux. Congratulations." Finally, someone's recognizing my talents, she preemed. "I'm implementing a complete restructuring next quarter. The old guard won't know what hit them." If only she knew about the restructuring plans already sitting on my desk, waiting for my signature. "I'll have David pick up Emma's things tomorrow," I said. "But Patricia, remember this moment." "Is that a threat?" she snorted. "From a part-time yoga instructor? Sweetheart, I eat people like you for breakfast." I ended the call and turned to Emma, who had stopped shivering but still looked miserable. "Mom, I really didn't mean to ruin her couch. I was just trying to water her stupid expensive orchid like she asked." "The orchid she probably bought from Azure Gardens?" I asked, referring to the high-end florist chain I'd acquired last year. "The one she brags about every chance she gets?" Emma nodded. "She says you could never afford their flowers." "Did you know," I said casually, pulling away from the curb, "that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them?" "Maya Angelou," Emma said, managing a small smile. "My bookworm daughter, so different from Patricia's materialistic worldview. Your father's ex-wife just showed us exactly who she is, someone who would put her furniture above a child's safety." I paused at a stoplight. "But you know what the beautiful thing about life is?" "What?" Karma doesn't need our help. It just needs our patience. Emma pulled my scarf tighter around her shoulders. Dad's going to be mad when he finds out what she did. Oh yes, I agreed. But not as mad as Patricia will be next week. Why? What's happening next week? I thought about the board meeting scheduled for Monday, where the new ownership of Lux Retail Group would be announced, the comprehensive audit I'd ordered of all senior management, and the interesting discrepancies in Patricia's expense reports that had already been flagged. Let's just say some people's umbrellas aren't as sturdy as they think, I said cryptically. How about we stop for hot chocolate? Emma's face lit up. At Sullivan's? I nodded, turning toward the small cafe I bought 5 years ago when the original owner retired. I kept his name, his recipes, and his values, just added better healthcare for the employees and a college fund for their kids. Mom, Emma said quietly as we parked. I know you could afford a bigger house or a fancier car. Why do we live so normally? I turned to look at my daughter, seeing the wisdom in her eyes that Patricia had always missed. Because true power isn't in showing what you have. It's in knowing who you are without it. Is that why you never told Dad about your business? I told him once in the beginning, I admitted. He said he couldn't handle being with someone more successful than him. So I kept quiet, hoping he'd love me for me. When he left for Patricia, he showed you who he was, Emma finished. Exactly. Now, let's get that hot chocolate. And maybe we'll add some of Sullivan's famous homemade marshmallows. The ones Patricia says are beneath her social status. Emma grinned. The very same ones I had Sullivan patent last year, I winked. Come on, baby, let's get you warmed up. As we walked into the cafe, my phone buzzed with an email from my CFO. Final audit results on PR's expenses, multiple violations found. Proceeding as discussed. I typed back a single word, yes. Sometimes the best lesson in life is learning that karma doesn't just knock. It pours. Monday morning arrived with the same stormy weather that had drenched Emma 3 days ago. I sat in my private office on the top floor of the Lux Retail Group headquarters, watching rain streak down the floor-to-ceiling windows. The board members would be arriving soon, none of them knowing that the mysterious CEO they were meeting was the same woman Patricia had dismissed as just a yoga instructor. My intercom buzzed. Mrs. Kennedy, Mr. Thompson, and the other board members are assembled in the conference room. And Mrs. Patricia Reynolds has arrived early for her presentation. Perfect timing, I smiled. Please show her in first. Patricia strutted through my office door in designer heels, clutching a leather portfolio. She stopped dead when she saw me sitting behind the massive desk. What are you doing here? She demanded. This is a restricted floor. Good morning, Patricia, I said calmly. Please have a seat. We need to discuss your expense reports. My? What? Who do you think you are? Sarah Kennedy, I stood extending my hand. CEO and majority shareholder of Lux Retail Group. But you can just call me Emma's mom. The portfolio slipped from her manicured fingers, scattering papers across my imported marble floor. This is impossible. The CEO is meeting you right now, I finished. Those expense reports you've been submitting, the ones charging personal shopping sprees as client meetings, the spa retreats listed as team building. Very creative. Patricia's face went from shock to calculating in seconds. David will never believe this. You're trying to sabotage my career because you're jealous. David already knows. I pressed a button on my desk phone. Send him in, please. My ex-husband walked in, his face ashen. Patricia, why didn't you tell me about the fraudulent expenses? Darling, this is ridiculous. Patricia laughed nervously. She's obviously manipulating. The audit team found everything. David cut her off. Over $200,000 in personal expenses charged to the company. The board is reviewing it all right now. Patricia sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. I can explain. I was going to pay it back. Like you were going to apologize for leaving my daughter in the rain? I asked quietly. Some things can't be paid back, Patricia. Some actions reveal our true character. Please, she whispered. This job is everything to me, my status, my lifestyle. Like Emma's safety was everything to me. I pulled up security footage on my computer screen. Here's a video from Thursday night. Shall we watch you physically pushing my daughter out your door? The police found it very interesting. You went to the police. Child endangerment is a serious offense, David said, his voice hard. The officers were especially concerned about the pattern of emotional abuse they uncovered. Patricia turned to me, tears threatening her perfect makeup. What do you want? Money? A public apology? I want you to understand something. I leaned forward. Every luxury store where you shop, I own it. That country club membership you flaunt, I'm on the board. The social circles you climb, I control them. But unlike you, I never needed to prove my worth by making others feel worthless. The board meeting starts in 5 minutes, David checked his watch. They're waiting for your presentation on the restructuring plan, which has been slightly modified, I added. Would you like to know your new position? Patricia's hands trembled. New position. You have 2 options. I slid a document across the desk. Resignation with full admission of financial misconduct or transfer to our new store in Queens as an assistant manager with mandatory ethics training. Assistant manager, she choked. That's beneath me. Like my daughter was beneath your precious furniture. I raised an eyebrow. Choose quickly, Patricia. The board doesn't like to be kept waiting. She stared at the paper, mascara starting to run. David, please. You threw my daughter out in a storm, he said quietly, then lied to me about it. Sign the papers, Patricia. With shaking fingers, she signed the transfer agreement. As she did, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Mom, is it done? I typed back, justice doesn't always come in storms. Sometimes it comes in signatures. The HR team will help you clear out your office. I stood. Oh, and Patricia. That white couch Emma supposedly ruined? I had it tested. The watermark disappeared completely once it dried. You threw my child out for nothing. She stumbled to her feet, clutching her signed papers. You've been planning this all along, haven't you? All these years pretending to be nothing. No, Patricia, you did this to yourself. I just provided the karma. After she left, David stayed behind. Sarah, I never knew about any of it. Your success, your power. You never asked, I said simply. You saw what you wanted to see, just like Patricia. Can we talk? About everything. I gathered my files for the board meeting. Sure. Over coffee at Sullivan's. I hear they make great marshmallows. He managed a weak smile, finally understanding the joke. You own that too, don't you? I own a lot of things, David, but more importantly, I know what really matters. I headed for the conference room door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. As I walked into the board meeting, my phone buzzed one last time. Emma had sent a photo of herself, smiling in front of Sullivan's with a hot chocolate topped with homemade marshmallows. The caption read, Karma tastes sweet, doesn't it, Mom? Yes, baby girl. Yes, it does. 3 months later, I stood at the entrance of the Queens branch of Lux Retail, watching through the window as Patricia straightened a display of handbags. Her designer clothes had been replaced by the standard store uniform. Her perfectly manicured nails now practical and short. How's she doing? Emma asked, sipping her hot chocolate beside me. Her manager says she's actually improving, I replied. She hasn't made a single customer cry this week. Emma laughed. That's progress. Remember when she used to make the housekeepers cry at her dinner parties? The bell chimed as we entered the store. Patricia looked up, then quickly looked down, her face flushing. The mandatory ethics training had included extensive sections on workplace bullying and emotional abuse, with case studies that hit suspiciously close to home. Good morning, Patricia, I said pleasantly. The display looks nice. Thank you, Mrs. Kennedy, she mumbled, using my proper title as required by company policy. Emma wandered over to look at the handbags, and I saw Patricia flinch, probably remembering the last time my daughter had been near her precious possessions. Your 90-day review is coming up, I said casually. Your manager speaks highly of your progress. Hope flickered across her face. Does that mean you can apply for a senior sales position? I nodded. Still in Queens, of course, but with slightly better hours. I thank you, she said, and for the first time, I heard genuine gratitude instead of manipulation in her voice. You know, I leaned against the counter. Success isn't about the position you hold or the zip code you live in. It's about how you treat people on your way up or down. Patricia glanced at Emma, who was carefully handling a designer clutch with obvious respect for the merchandise. I've been seeing a therapist, she said quietly. She says I have issues with measuring my worth through status and possessions. And? And she's right. Patricia straightened her name badge. I've been wrong about a lot of things, including how I treated Emma. As if on cue, Emma walked over with a clutch. This craftsmanship is amazing, she said, professionally examining the stitching. Is it from the new artisan collection? Patricia blinked in surprise at my daughter's knowledge. Yes, actually. Each one is handmade by local craftspeople. We're trying to support small businesses and traditional skills. Mom's idea, Emma smiled. Just like the Sustainable Materials Program and the Worker Education Fund. I watched as Patricia processed this information, realizing how much she'd misunderstood about both business and success. Your father misses you, she said suddenly to Emma. He's different now. More like the man I first met, before I pushed him to chase status and promotions. I know, Emma replied. We had dinner last week, at Sullivan's. Patricia managed a small smile. Those marshmallows really are good, aren't they? Even if they're not imported from Switzerland. Would you like to join us for coffee sometime? I found myself asking, surprising all of us. Not as family, but as people learning to be better. Patricia's eyes welled up. I'd like that, she whispered. I'd like that very much. As we left the store, Emma linked her arm through mine. That was kind of you, Mom. Offering coffee. Sometimes people deserve a chance to change, I said. As long as they're willing to do the work. Like making them work in Queens, Emma grinned. Like making them face the consequences of their actions, I corrected, and learned from them. My phone buzzed with a message from David. Patricia apologized to me today. Really apologized for everything. Said working in the store has taught her more about life than all her years in the executive suite. What did you do? I typed back. I didn't do anything. Life did. Sometimes the best lessons come from the bottom shelf, not the penthouse view. Emma peered at my phone. Are you and Dad? No, baby, I squeezed her hand. Some things can't go back to what they were, but maybe they can become something new, something better. Like Patricia. Like all of us, I said, watching the sun break through the clouds. Learning, growing, and realizing that true power isn't in controlling others, it's in helping them find their way back to themselves. We walked to Sullivan's, where the marshmallows were always homemade, the coffee was always perfect, and the lessons were always served with a side of sweet justice.